So easier said than done dragging stuff out into the driveway. So you get to see the grand mess that I call a shop. This is my wife's little 2-foot by 6-foot square area that I allow her to use my shop. I say that because she's not out here to smack me. She does glass making, bead making. Sometimes I do it too. It's kind of fun, glass forming. Anyways, this is my soon-to-be sword heat treating forge. It is a former chlorine cylinder. Don't ask. Yeah, I clean up hazardous and radioactive waste, so I run across all sorts of neat things. And if you ever decide to get a chlorine cylinder, man, they are great cylinders because they're only about just a hair under 3/16 inch thick walls, so they're not as heavy as the big giant CO2 cylinders. And they're about a 12-inch diameter, so they're great for forges. But if you get a chlorine cylinder, make sure it's empty. The guy swore these were empty, which they weren't quite empty, which is probably why he had 10 of them laying on the property that he couldn't do anything with, because it probably would have cost him about $40,000 to dispose of them. So instead, he waits for some knucklehead like me to say, hey, dude, man, those look cool. Can I have them? Anyways, so since this is just going to be used for heat treating, I really don't care how efficient it is. I don't care if if it bleeds a little bit of heat through it. So I basically went with about 1.5 inches of refractory blanket and then just coated it with Satanite. And that was a royal pain in the ass. This thing is, I think it's 50 inches top to bottom. I don't really remember without measuring it. But it's kind of a pain to line it with. And I actually started with 2 inches of 8-pound density wool, and by the time you smack it and slather it up with Satanite, it of course compresses it down. So it's about inch and a half. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, about 1.5 inches of refractors. That's plenty for a heat treating forge. I mean, I'm not going to hook it up with a solenoid, be doing any 20 or 30 minute soaks where I'm trying to hold a 10-degree differential on it. That's just simply not going to happen. This is going to be set it in there, heat it up. If it's not quite as hot as I want, then I give it a little more fuel air. If it's too hot, then I cut back a little on the fuel air. So anyways, you can see here, I have it pre-cut where I was going to insert 3 atmospheric burners, Venturi burners. I was going to rig them up with a hair dryer, kind of an forced air system. And put them on their own gate valve for each one. So if I needed to get a higher burn down here or in the middle or at the top, I can adjust them. Now I don't want to do that. I'm going to get a ribbon burner. I'm actually going to put probably 2. And it was funny because what you described is what I was thinking, because I got the same thing in my regular one. I got one of the Texas Forge and Grinders burners that Chris Meyer made for me, and I think it's 3 across, kind of in a staggered pattern. But I don't want that for this one because the burn dynamics are a little different. I don't want to just heat up one side of a sword. That's guaranteed for warpage. And I can't just put another one on the opposite side because then it doesn't get the effect I want. So I'm going to go with kind of what you described too. I want to do a double row, and I'm going to have it coming in at a tangent. So it goes in and just swirls around. That should give me pretty even heating. That's how I did my regular ribbon burner forge. I'll show you here in a second. And I wouldn't expect it to be any different in this. I do think it's going to get hotter down here in the bottom half of it. It's going to get hotter up in this mid to upper section than it is down here in the bottom. I don't know. I'll find out. But kind of same idea. I wanted to put like a pair of 12-inch ones with maybe a 4-inch gap in between it. So I have, a 12-inch double row ribbon burner here and a 12-inch double row here. And I think that'll give me enough adjustment that I can get a pretty even heat in this. We'll see. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's all speculation. Down here in the bottom, I have a cutout in it, and that's so, I made this for Forged and Fire. I didn't know if I was going to get some silly ass, 4.5-foot sword, and God knows what they have people make. So I set this up so I could essentially heat treat just about anything long. Right now, most of what I'm doing are Migration Era stuff, Viking blades, Viking swords, Saxon swords, Lang Saxes, things like that that generally are 28-inch to 34-inch blades. That's kind of what I want to get into. It's what I got going right now. So I don't expect to really have to use that bottom port. And I thought about actually bumping this down, but I've already made it. It's big. It's, again, I'm only looking at heating stuff for 20 to 30 minutes, so I really don't care about the fuel consumption. I don't plan on making a sword every day, so I just don't care. So I'm going to leave it this size, same insulation. It's just a matter of working out the burners on it. So again, I want to have those come in over here at an angle, so it's got a good swirl. And there's a pretty good volume in this. You can see I got, that's at least 8 inches of open space. So 8-inch interior diameter. I ought to get it pretty good. And if I had my crucible furnace up and running, I would show you how I tuned that. So I basically, that glory hole, I watch it and you can hear it because it totally sounds different. If you have flame shooting out the top, then I'm too fuel rich and I'm not running at the optimized temperature. Because in crucible furnace, I just want raw heat. I don't care about oxidizing, reducing. I want raw heat. And I can adjust the air, and you'll actually watch that flame, all of a sudden it just sucks down to the inside, and your furnace goes from a high pitch kind of to all of a sudden it's just a really deep throaty, and all of a sudden it just will start glowing white. And that's when I know, wow, I'm just where I want it. So I adjust it till I get that flame just below the opening, because that's almost an exact neutral atmosphere. And that's my maximum burn, my maximum temperature. For heat treating forge at neutral, I should be fine. I'm not trying to forge weld, so I don't care if I get just some slight oxidizing coming in. Obviously, I don't want it blowing straight at my blade that's in there, because you'll get some, localized oxidation that can scale some stuff pretty bad. But if I got it blowing into the side, I'm pretty confident that I'm going to be neutral or better down in that region. So. But again, that's a nice thing about a forced air. If I look in there and I pull it out and I see excessive scale in one spot, well, I cut the O2 down a little bit to that section. So anyways, that's kind of what I plan on doing. I'm going to be casting my own ribbon burner. I have a crap load of sheet metal just because all my old armoring stuff, I still have 4x8 sheets of 14 gauge, 16 gauge mild steel, some stainless sheets. So I'll be making, like I said, probably some 12-inch by 2-inch wide burners, double rows. So I'll figure it out as I go. But yeah, I'm happy to share my design plans with you and see what you're coming up with. And maybe if we build something almost identical, then if one of us has an issue with it, the other one probably will too. So whoever works it out the first can share the information with the other one. Or hey, for whatever, if you want me to come up to Austin, and I can go swing by and harass Chris Farrell a little too. And we've already been talking about bringing my crucible furnace up to his place for a weekend. So maybe if we get to a point where we're ready to start assembling these things and do some test firings, I can toss this in the back of the truck too, and we can just all hook up and kind of work them out and get them firing like we need them. Now, anyways, I was going to do the lid on this the same as the crucible furnace. I want to have the lid come down a little bit, and I should still have the tops to the coring cylinders out in the backyard somewhere. Yes, I know our yard kind of looks like white trash, but I'm fine with that. Same thing, cut a rectangular hole in the top so I can put it in, put a bar that goes up so I can actually hook a sword on and suspend it in there. So if I don't need to be moving it up and down, I can just hang it, provided it's got a nice even heat. But yeah, that's the plans. And I'll probably do castable in the top. Again, I'm going to screw some screws in so there's something for that castable to grab onto so it doesn't fall out. I actually run into refractory from clients a lot, so I ended up with a big pail full of fiber reinforced high temperature stuff. So it's got little fiberglass fibers that stop it from falling apart when it cracks. So it makes good stuff for things like ceilings in forges or back walls in a forge. So anyways, here's my ribbon burner. I just started using this about 3 weeks ago. So I put it together. Same thing, chlorine cylinder. They're a great diameter. Yeah, so this is what I got from Chris Meyer, and it's 8 inches by 1.75 inches, and it's actually got a 3-hole pattern in it. And then that's the plumbing I rigged up. It came with that on it, and I just added in some of these other parts, and I don't have my things. What I do in these is I actually fit in an 0.30 inch MIG welding tip, which is actually about 0.34 inch diameter hole in it. And again, that's just so I can kind of get a relative gauge of how efficient was this compared to the other ones, so I can kind of guesstimate what my volumetric flow in propane is for a given pressure on the regulator. So yeah, it's a very simple system. I don't have any blowback issues. I've never had any problems. It's just common sense. I hear people talking about, oh, I got to install 6 different safety features so I don't blow my line up with a fuel air mixture. Well, there's a real simple solution to that. Turn your propane off, let your air clear the line before you clear the air off, and it's never a problem. So I don't understand why people don't understand that. I don't know, I guess my assumption is you're smart enough to make knives, you ought to be smart enough to figure some basics out. So this is the Pink Panther. This is my blower unit. Picked this up for about 30 bucks on Amazon, and it's pretty neat. It's a rheostat controlled, it's a commercial dog groomer hair dryer, and it actually puts out so much air I had to run it through an air dump gate valve. Otherwise it just puts a hurricane even at the lowest setting, and it's actually too much air for my ribbon burner forge. So it's just real simple system. Got some holes there, you create a back pressure and just bleed off the air, so it makes it a little bit more fine-tunable, so I can adjust however much air I need. It's got a heater also. That comes in nice, because you wouldn't believe it, but when you're using things like a crucible furnace where maybe another 50 degrees is live or die on whether or not your stuff actually works, it's nice to know that, hey, I got another, actually I think they say it heats it up at the head here for 135 degrees, and it puts about 100 degree air out coming out the hose. So hey, 100 degrees helps. So if you're starting with 100 degree warmer air in a furnace, that's 100 degrees you don't have to overcome with your burning fuel. Yeah, so it works pretty nice. I haven't had any problems with melting. I run a heavy duty plastic flexible hose up to a rubber fitting, up to the cast iron, through some PVC fittings, up to the cast iron fittings, and I got just a 1/4 inch fuel line going down to the propane tank. I'm running, yes I know, 20-pound cylinder. I used to have a 100-pound cylinder, but it ran out of spec. It's out of date, so that's what became my crucible furnace. I actually don't want another 100-pounder because I don't have a lot of room here in the garage, and I hate having to haul them down to fill them. But I do want a 40-pounder, because starting about October, even down here in Houston, it gets cold enough that I have problems with the pressure dropping on that. Not necessarily on the ribbon forge, but when I'm running the beast over there, where I'm sucking a lot of gas off that, then it absolutely will freeze up. So I got to do stupid things like fill a big giant tub full of warm water and float your tank in it, which is just ridiculous. But anyways, got to do what you got to do. So yeah, so that's what I got.